episode 3. So we are on a review of possibly just season 1 or possibly season 1 to season 4. We'll just see how the time goes. So season 1, like we said, launched in 2019 after 5 years of Rue and Michelle pestering everybody in the UK to see who would take it on. So BBC grew a set of balls and eventually took it on and put it on channel 3 of the BBC, so BBC 3. And what they started doing was doing a preview called Meet the Queens. So they would do Meet the Queens episode, which would give us an insight into who the queens were. So it was like, I think it's 2 or 3 minutes per queen. It's actually maybe not as long as that, to let us know who the queens are, where they're from, what we can expect from them, a sneak peek at what their aesthetic is like, i.e. their look, and take it from there. So Meet the Queens was on season 1, previewed on the 3rd of September 2019, and then episode 1 was aired on the 3rd of October 2019. So the queens from season 1, a couple of them, I'm just going to name a few of them from each season, or else we would be here all bloody night. So season 1 was the Vivian, who then went on to Dancing on Ice, who is basically the most famous drag queen in the UK. That's simple as that. Bag of Chips, who was the most successful drag queen in the UK, I think, until the Vivian came along. Blue Hydrangea, who I spoke about in previous podcasts. She was the queen from Ireland. She was very young at the time. And who else did I have there? I don't know who else I had there. Davina De Campo. So Davina De Campo was who I was talking about, who was the Fountain of Knowledge, basically, but not also the Fountain of Knowledge. She is also the queen who was in the Frock Destroyers, who sings a certain bit in the song, right? And if you play the certain bit of the song at a certain time before the bells, basically, it basically sets the bells off, if you know what I mean. But she sings in this octave, which is like Mariah Carey style. It's really, really bizarre. But yeah, so that's the queens from season 1. But in season 1, I mentioned that the Vivian speaks about recovery, and you'll find that a lot of queens, especially in the American RuPaul Drag Race, but they'll drop little nuggets throughout the seasons about being in recovery, or are going through recovery, or have been, or are thinking about it, or things like that. And that's all down to the environment that they work in and things like that, and it's affected their work, not work at some point, but you can see that it's affected them, and they need to do something about it. Baga doesn't necessarily talk about it in season 1, but she does talk about it in another franchise when she's brought back. Season 1, we've seen Scared the Cat, where she, in the other episode, I said that she is she's bisexual. So she does drag. She's got a girlfriend. Her girlfriend does drag. The Vivian, like I said, she was UK Ambassador 2016, but she had to audition like everyone else, even though Rue knew who she was, etc., etc. Every season of Drag Race, they have guest judges or guests come in to do like Snatch Game or things like that. So season 1, they had Andrew Garfield, Spider-Man, Maisie Williams from Game of Thrones, Twiggy, model, Jerry Spice, Jade from Little Mix, Cheryl Cole, or Cheryl, whoever she is, and Michaela Coel. I don't know if I'm saying her name right. And obviously the panel, who are Rue, Michelle, Alan Carr, and Graham Norton, who switch in and out. So like I said, that was initially filmed in Mill Studio and then moved to Pinewood, where they filmed James Bond. And then it continued from season 2 in Pinewood after that. And the girl band was won by the Frock Destroyers, who were Blue Hydrangea, Bag of Chips, and Davina De Campo, with Break Up Bye Bye, which is on Spotify, iTunes, etc., etc. But I'll put that in the description as well. So that was a quick recap of season 1. And we'll move on to season 2. So season 2, we had Cherry Valentine, who I mentioned in the last podcast, who sadly passed away on the 23rd of September 2022. Lawrence Cheney, who is from Glasgow, Hillsborough, but Glasgow, she says. Ellie Diamond, who is from Dundee. And Tace, who is from Wales. So Tace then went on to become one of the most iconic fashion models in the UK, both as a woman and as a man modelling. She is actually pretty phenomenal. Absolute shite comedian, but an absolute amazing model. So Meet the Queens was aired in the 16th of December 2020 and aired on the 14th of January 2020. So as you can imagine, we started watching and then we went into lockdown. So then it stopped. And when the Queens returned, so did new faces, in the sense that a few of them had a bit of work done. One queen did not return, and that was Veronica Green. She had COVID, so she got an open invitation to come back into season 3. Veronica Green is a classically trained opera singer, and she did come into season 3 and she came back in with a bang, which was great. So Lawrence Cheney and Ellie Diamond were the two Scots to ever appear in RuPaul's Drag Race season 2. There's never been another Scottish queen in it. There has been Scottish queens in the American one, Rosé being the queen, and Morgan McMichaels. Morgan McMichaels was from Dumbarton, speaks with an American accent, has been there for a long time, and Rosé is from Dumbarton. It might be the other way about, but Rosé was in season 13 of RuPaul's Drag Race, and when she did Work the World tour and came back to Glasgow, she was absolutely buzzing. She drank a can of Iron Brew on stage and everything. It was brilliant. She speaks with a Glaswegian accent now and again, and when RuPaul asked her, she actually did Mary Queen of Scots on Snatch Game, and she was hysterical at that because she spoke with a Scottish accent. Nobody could understand what she was talking about. And when RuPaul asked her at the tic-tac-toe meeting, she says, can you teach me how to say something else in Scottish? And she says, Ellie Diamond, because RuPaul had a habit of saying Lawrence Chaney. So, and for your information, Lawrence Chaney has a very strong connection to Slay nightclub in Glasgow in the Merchant City. And on that point, if you love Rocky Horror, drag along. So there's a Rocky Horror drag along on the 29th of October in Slay in Merchant City. Being done by Rujazzle Productions, but you'll need to get your tickets very quickly because they are selling out very fast, but it will be fantastic. It is done by Rujazzle, Glasgow Queen, with Sissy Scorpion, Rose, Mosaic, Skinny Minnie, and Anubis, who was in season 3 of RuPaul's Drag Race, which we'll come on to, and another couple of queens. So it will be absolutely amazing. I was at the drag brunch on Saturday, so I got a sneak peek of the numbers that they're doing. Very funny, very talented queens. So yeah, so drag along at Slay nightclub, over 14s, on the 29th of October. But back to season 2. So season 2, yeah, it was 14th of January 2020, and then obviously shut down for lockdown, and then they came back with new faces and a bit of timber put on some of them, and some of them stepped their pussy up, which was good to see, because Bimini Bombulash was in the bottom in the very first episode, and she obviously went away, did a bit of work on herself, not on her face from what I can remember, but she totally elevated her game and went on into the final, and has since then went on to feature in multiple fashion magazines as both female and male, and was actually made a political statement in the O2 at the Work the World tour, not last night, maybe the night before, if for anybody that didn't see it, and that was she probably made history doing that, but yeah, so yeah, hats off to her for doing that. Season 2 girl group was the United King Dolls, so Lawrence Chaney was in that group. Can't remember who else was in that, unfortunately, and that was UK Hun, and that was the one that Rosie Ramsey turned into a lullaby for for her son. So yeah, that's on Spotify and iTunes and things like that. So they didn't have a makeover challenge because it was COVID. So the guest judges for season 2, even though it was COVID and all that, they did have a COVID team and all that jazz. So they had Liz Hurley, you know who Liz Hurley is, Sheridan Smith, Gavin and Stacey, Jordan Dunn, Lorraine Kelly, MNEK singer, Jessie Ware, Maya Jama, Dawn French, there was a comedy challenge, and Natalie Cassidy made an appearance because they had an acting challenge, so she was giving them some hints and tips on set, on the screen kind of thing. So they all shut their cell when that alarm went off because they were mid getting ready. So yeah, and then the spin-off for that went on to BBC iPlayer. That was set in America, that one as well. Season 3, we'll just go straight into season 3, I think. So season 3, we had Meet the Queens. That was aired on the 18th of August 2021. And then we had the episode on the 23rd of September 2021. So we had a wee bit of time to digest that. So the Queens for this episode, this is where things went a bit doolally for me. In the sense that this was the first time I was exposed to anything other than, I want to say, normal queens, in the sense that we still had your camp, you still had your fashion, you still had your comedy, but this was the first time I was introduced to anything other than that. So we had Ella Day and Kitty Scott Claus, who were your normal run-of-the-mill queens. Crystal Versace came on the scene, and she is, or was, one of the youngest queens to ever come on Drag Race at the time. She was only 21. Her face, the way she painted it, she looked like a cat, in the sense her eyes were like, the first time I ever seen her face, I had to pause the telly. Like, it was absolutely amazing. And for me, she changed the way that drag queens painted their face. She set the bar so high that was the way queens then had to learn how to paint their face, for me. And any queen that then started out after that, I felt as if they looked at her and said that that's the way that a queen should paint their face. There was no, okay, like, if I can't do that, what else do I do? It was, I need to paint my face like that, or I can't be a drag queen. Because it was so spectacular to me. It was just like, and I think that was, I think that was the reaction that even the panel had when they seen it. It was so honestly, it was, oh, if you've not seen it, and I'll put a picture up, it was, she'd obviously been doing her makeup for years before that. Well, 13, she started doing drag at 13. That was when they had started experimenting drag, and ever since, like, it just elevated since then. And the other queen that came into the competition at that time was Charity Case. Now, Charity Case, in her Meet the Queens, like, video, she was dressed as a dragon. A very cute dragon, but she was dressed as a dragon. So you couldn't see her face, and she had her big, long snout on. And had to rewind it and I had to rewatch it, and I was like, oh, what? Because I hadn't seen a queen like that before, and I was like, I don't know what we're going to see here. And that was obviously the reaction that Rue wanted us to have. So her entrance was really scary, really scary. It had dripping blood and all that kind of thing, and it was, oh wow, like scary. Not what we were used to. Well, not what I was used to, I should say. Like, so I didn't know how she was going to interpret the challenge, because the queens interpret the challenge very, very differently. So for me, this season was a game changer because we had two queens who were going to shake things up. Crystal was very young, in the sense she was young, but had been doing drag a long time, in the sense that she was very, very polished, but didn't come across as experienced in the performance way. Because at 21, how many performances had she actually done in clubs and things like that? Then there was Charity Case, who wasn't your regular run-of-the-mill queen. So you've got that, and then you've got Victoria Scone, who came back from season 2, remember, who had COVID. So she came back knowing a bit of the game. So it'd be interesting to see how she was going to feel with new cast and going, right, okay, I know how to play this game a little bit, but how's that? Is it going to go in my favour, or is it actually going to hinder me? So she was a theatre queen, and she was like, this is actually going to be okay. So Anubis is obviously in season 3 as well, who's in the drag along at the end of the month in Glasgow. So remember, the first episode is always about showing where you come from. So I was like, okay, so what's Charity going to do for this? Like, that's going to be a bit strange and stuff. But it was okay. Like, she interpreted it fine. And this is where Victoria Scone comes in. So Victoria Scone Victoria Scone's a cis woman, so she's a woman who does drag, so that's, everybody knew who she was and things like that. And her drag is extravagant. So there was actually nobody in the bottom 2 in season 3, episode 1. There was 2 people fighting actually for the top, and that was Crystal Versace, who was like painted like a cat. It's the only way to describe it. And then there was Victoria Scone, who was actually dressed like afternoon tea. She was dressed like afternoon tea. So she was dressed in a blue and white china unitard with a plate round like her bust area and a plate round her like her waist, with like sandwiches on it and cakes and stuff. So it was actually episode 1 that she hurt herself, and they had to fight lip sync for the win kind of thing. And she came down the middle of the runway, Victoria Scone, and she went into the splits, and that's when she hurt her knee. And then proceeded for the next 2 weeks in crutches, and that's obviously when she they had to pull her out kind of thing. So it was very, very strange, very, very strange. The first episode of the third season with two queens who were going to dynamically shake things up. So in season 3, in girl group episode, you've got Big Drag Energy, and this is where they changed things up again, in the sense that they gave them two versions. So they gave them a ballad version and they gave them a dance version. So they fought over who was going to take the dance version, who was going to take the ballad version. Obviously, people with the ballad version didn't want the ballad version, but they were like, we'll make it work, blah, blah, blah. Ballad version won. So that was called Big Drag Energy, and it was called BDE for short. So that's on Spotify and iTunes. And what I should have said is, after every season, they go on tour. Every group goes on tour. So like season 1 then does a tour of an iconic piece of the show kind of thing. So say they've done a sewing challenge and they need to explain the bit of why did you come up with that concept, and they'll come up with a concept. So in season 3, there's a queen called Choriza May, she's Spanish, and she came up with this concept. It was a sewing challenge, I think, about a pirate. She met a pirate in a woods and it was a campfire and blah, 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 right? Made absolutely no sense. Made sense to her, but in the show where they take it around the theatres, that was her piece. And they put music to it and all that, and it made total sense, because it made sense actually when they did it on stage and things like that. So it just shows you like what was in someone's head, and then they put it out on stage kind of thing actually made sense. And Veronica Green, who came back after the COVID into season 3, she did her opera singer when they went round on tour. And Crystal Versace, the way she paints because that's the way she envisages drag being in the future. And actually the documentary that she does is about drag in the future, and taking it to the next dimension. So that is what her piece is about. So that's where it all comes, like, it all obviously goes on to the next level kind of thing. So that was season 3, like in a nutshell kind of thing. So it all goes by very, very quickly. Oh, the guest judges for season 3. Did I do that one? No. So guest judges and visitors. So you had Matt Lucas, Oti Mabuse, who did the choreography for the dance challenge, Nicola Coughlin, Emma Bunton, Leanne Pinnock from Little Mix, Nadine Coyle, Judy Love, Lulu, Alicia Dixon, Russell Tovey, and Kathy Burke. So you can tell like there was a mixture of music and comedy and things like that in there. So that was your season 3 recap. And then season 4. And then we'll start with season 5. So season 4, where are we with season 4? So season 4 aired on the 22nd of September 2022. We had obviously Meet the Queens before that. So Danny Baird was the bearded queen, and he currently hosts the Aftershave, which is the after party, if you want to call it, after party show about season 5 episodes kind of thing. You've got Cheddar Gorgeous, who to me is the educator of the season. He is the fountain of all knowledge. His drag is very futuristic, Game of Thrones out there. Everybody knew who he was as soon as he walked in. He is like the icon of drag being about forever kind of thing. Pixie Lott, who I picked out only because he was quite open about his relationship with a queen from season 3 called Tia Coffee. So Tia Coffee was, Rue called her sample size. So he was quite open about his relationship with him, and he didn't obviously want to let them down and things like that. He found it very difficult being like attached to another queen who had been in Drag Race, and that sort of brought back memories of Alaska and Sharon Needles from RuPaul's Drag Race in America. Alaska felt an awful lot of pressure because she went in straight after Sharon Needles and the American one as well. And then you've got Black Pepper, who went in to season 4, who done very, very well, but has recently brought a song out and was in the top 40 only a couple of weeks ago. So just a bit of trivia there for you. So season 4 also had the first transgender queen, Schiffer. Schiffer, yeah, something Schiffer. Yeah, it's not Claudia Schiffer, it's Schiffer. Oh, that's going to annoy me. But she's a twin. She's a twin. Her brother is still her brother, but goes by they them. She did very well. She did very well. She got put out in a challenge that she shouldn't have went out on. She was very proud of herself. She wore very minimal makeup. Still got very far. Just shows you that the look didn't looks. Although I said Crystal changed the way queens painted, she had obviously still stuck to being who she was and things like that, which was great, and she didn't like kind of change. Sminty Drop went into season 4 painted exactly like Crystal Versace, and all the American queens who followed season 3 sort of went in painted like Crystal Versace. So that's where I thought a lot of queens had taken their inspiration, if you know what I mean. So that's why I thought Crystal had changed the way makeup was sort of going. Season 4, they did have a makeover challenge, and that was the Queen team. And I spoke about them in a previous episode, where the Queen team are the females behind the scenes who get everybody ready and things like that. So they do their corsets and they do their wigs and just basically make sure they're okay, mother them and all that jazz. So it was great to do a makeover challenge again after obviously all the lockdown restrictions are fully lifted and all that kind of stuff. And they did Lady Poppins, which was the musical challenge, which was the only other one that really stuck in my head, which was a take on Mary Poppins, pardon me, which was great. Snatch Game wasn't really that memorable in season 4, to be honest. And the girl band group was Queen of the Bone Ages, which was actually the Misfits. Like, so you've always got a band that you think they'll do really well, and they didn't. And it was the band that were the Misfits, I suppose. So it was Queen of the Bone Ages, and the song was Come Alive. That won. So that's on Spotify and iTunes. The guest judges, again, like, the guest judges are just absolutely phenomenal. The only time that the panel doesn't change is the finale. So for the finale, it's always family, as Rue calls it. So it's always Rue, Michelle, Graham, or Alan, basically. And Rue's only ever missed one episode, and that was a makeover challenge. So Rue announced the makeover challenge, so he went in and he obviously did the mini challenge, and then on the main stage, obviously when it opens up and Rue walks down the main stage, it's Michelle, and she says, out with our control, like, Rue can't make it, but he's watching live, kind of thing. So when the decision's made, she's like, I'm not making a decision, it's still Rue. And she obviously phones Rue, and Rue's obviously watching live, and it's Rue that still makes the decision, kind of thing. So very bizarre, like, him not being on the panel and him not giving comments and things like that. But it's the only episode that he actually doesn't, like, judge, like, you hear his voice on. So it's very bizarre. But guest judges and visitors are Joanna Lumley, FKA Twigs, which apparently is a rapper, Leomi Anderson, Alison Hammond, Hannah Waddingham, so she was in Benidorm and things like that, Mel B, Boy George, Raven, who was season 1 or season 2 of RuPaul's Drag Race, who also paints RuPaul's face. So where RuPaul, where the contestants have 90 minutes to get ready for the main stage, RuPaul takes 6 hours. So he always jokes that there's a team of 50 gets him ready, but that's not necessarily a rumour. So it does take a lot of people to get Rue ready. Raven paints his face daily, and it can be done in like an hour and a half by Raven, but if he's got 6 hours to get ready, it'll take the 6 hours to get ready. Lorraine Pascal, Ollie Anderson, Kathy Dennis, and Tess Daly have also been guest judges on season 4. So that was season 4, one of the best outfits ever seen on RuPaul's Drag Race has got to be the category was musicals, and it was Danny Baird walking down the stage as the plant from walking down the stage as Audrey 2 from Little Shop of Horrors. It was a game changer. It was absolutely phenomenal. And for me, that was when Rue had decided that Danny Baird had won. It was next level, absolute next level. Couldn't walk in it. I mean, you just couldn't. I mean, if he had to lip sync, you could see at the end when they were dancing and things like that, he could have taken the plant pot off and hiked the skirt up. But it was still a game changer. It honestly was an absolute game changer. The lip syncs at the end. Sometimes the songs are pretty shite, actually. Like, you wonder who picks them. And some of them, you expect them to do things at certain bits, and they don't. I don't know how Rue judges it, in the sense that if they do splits, kicks, all that kind of stuff, do they get extra points? Don't think that's fair, considering some of the queens just don't do that kind of thing. I mean, I could never imagine Rue doing a death drop or anything like that. But then again, maybe back in the day, I mean, who knows? But no, I just can't see it. Can you imagine Bianca Del Rio or anything like that doing a slip drop or a death drop or anything like that? Or the Vivian, or she does roly-polies. The Vivian does roly-polies. Or even Danny Baird. No, like, well, in saying that, like, I just don't really see UK queens like doing what the Americans do, dancing. Australian queens can't dance for shit. Like, they just can't. There's a couple of them that can, right? Sorry, a couple of them can, right? No, Australian queens just can't dance. So funny watching them. It really is. It's brilliant. But no, just no. But yeah. So that's us. We're up to date, I think. We're up to date. Season 5. Yeah, it's just started. Do you know, season 5's just started, and I knew there was a queen from London going to be on it. Just had a feeling it was just time. That there was a queen from there was a circle of queens, and I'll explain that when we go on to season 5 in the next episode. And nah, editing maybe, don't know, can't blame editing and everything, but yeah, be interesting to see though. It'll be interesting to see what her sister says. But yeah, let's find out all the tea in the next episode, will we? Moving on to moving on to season 5.